So class, welcome to the second lecture of the unit number 2. Basically, this video, lecture number 11, I'm dividing this lecture into two videos. So this is lecture 11, 11 or 12. I think it is actual 12, second video. So first video, it was a short video of 7 minutes in which I discussed, I gave you a homework, a numerical problem, one numerical problem, and I told you to solve that numerical problem for a load factor of two different load factors, and calculate the savings per unit, saving per unit kilowatt hour of energy generation. And then in the same video, I started unit number 2, where I told you that for any company who is supplying you the power, so it is its responsibility to design and build a plant in such a way that an overall economy is achieved. Now the point is, why this overall economy is achieved. What do you mean by economy? Economy means minimum cost. Okay, so if you are investing minimum cost, okay, in building a power plant, so obviously it will reduce, if the investment is reduced, so then the production cost will be reduced. Okay, I'm saying, so that in a way that overall economy is achieved means that cost of per unit production or generation, cost of per unit generation of electricity is as minimum as possible, is as minimum as possible. Okay, so if the cost of generation of electricity is minimum or low, what will happen? The utility who is supplying power, it will supply the power at lower rate, means it will charge the consumers for power at lower cost. Okay, so if the consumer is getting power at lower cost, what will happen? Means it will encourage the consumer to use more electricity. Okay, so means if the cost of generation of electricity is minimum or low, so this will allow the utility to sell power or electricity at lower rates. So if a consumer is getting power at lower rates, means the consumer is getting encouraged to consume more power, and hence I can write, and hence consumer is encouraged to consume more power. Okay, means you are using electricity. Suppose you are saying, okay, this electricity, which means you are getting electricity at, suppose, 3.5 rupees per unit. So what you are doing, you are using a blower for heating during winters. But if you will get this electricity, the same unit, if you are charged for, suppose, rupees 1.5 per unit, then maybe you will say, okay, this blower means you will say that let's use AC, because the cost of the electricity is reduced, no, so we will consume more power. Okay, so better to use AC. Okay, so this is why, if cost of generation is minimum, so that means the utility can sell power at lower rates, and if the utility sells power at lower rates, the consumer will consume more power. I mean, it is a sort of encouragement for the consumer. Obviously, anything which is cheaper, we will consume more, and anything which is expensive, we will consume less. Okay, so the question is, what are the factors which affect the cost of generation? Okay, so what factors affect the cost of generation of electricity? So I will write here what are the factors. Suppose first the heading, factors which affect the cost of generation, which affect the cost of generation are as follows. Means there is not a single factor which decides the cost of generation. We have three or four factors which will ultimately decide the cost of generation. Okay, so first factor is number one. um, Means means constructing a power plant, what do you need? For constructing a power plant, what do you need? You need land, because you cannot construct a power plant in means space. Okay, in air. Okay, you have to construct a power plant on ground, so definitely you need some piece of land. Okay, so first, availability of land. Okay, first, the land is available. No, the second question is, the land which is available to you, is that land available at cheaper rates, or is that land available at means higher rates? So if the land is available at cheaper rates, obviously the total cost will reduce. Okay, but if the land is available at very high rates, obviously the cost of generation, it will be high. Okay, so first, availability of the land at cheaper rates is one factor. At cheaper rates, it is one factor. Number second is, so now you have purchased a land. Now you want to construct a thermal power, this power plant. For that, you need machineries, you need equipments, you need building. Okay, so and you need, moreover, you need fuel. So in case of a thermal, you need coal, and in case of a this nuclear, you need some nuclear material. Okay, uranium 238. So the second point is the available. Sorry, not the second point is the cost of the equipment and the cost of the fuel. So I will divide it into two: cost of equipment, and third point, cost of fuel used. Okay. So then the fourth point is depreciation cost of equipment. Depreciation cost of equipment. What do you mean by depreciation cost of equipment? By the depreciation cost of equipment, you means each year the cost of the means this na, there will be reduction in the cost of the equipment or buildings. Okay, for example, suppose you are purchasing a car today, and you are costing it, means purchasing it for 6.5 lakh, and you are getting a car insurance for suppose 6.5 lakh. So next year you will get a car insurance for the same car, okay, which you have purchased last year, 1 year before. So you will get an insurance for rupees 5 lakh. However, the actual cost of the car 1 year back, it was 6.5 lakh, and now it is you are getting an insurance for 5 lakh. Why? Because these insurance company, what they do, they say that that is the depreciation, 1.5 lakh amount that has been depreciated, because this suppose that there is some wear and tear of the spare parts of a week of your vehicle. So because of that, and this is called as depreciation. Okay, so depreciation cost is very important. Okay, it plays a very important role while determining the cost of generation of electricity. How? I will explain you later. Okay, because this depreciation means factor, we have to means read it in detail. Okay, so next is interest on capital investment. Interest on capital investment. Okay, so interest on capital investment means suppose that a particular company, it is going to means install a power plant or construct a power plant. For that, for constructing a power plant, they need some capital investment. Okay, so there are two ways. Number one, the company will utilize its own money to construct a power plant, and number second, that what company will do, it will take loans from various funding agencies or financial institutions like World Bank, state government, central government, or some nationalized banks or some private banks. Okay, so what these companies, these banks or financial institution do, they will give you some money, but what they will do, they will charge some interest on that money. Okay, so that interest, it is plays a very important role. Okay, so if the interest is high, if the interest of loan is high, what the company will do, it will sell power at higher rates. But if the interest is low, the company will sell power at lower rates. So this interest on capital investment, whether the money has been borrowed from from any financial institution, or the company is utilizing its own money. In both the cases, this interest will play a vital role. Okay. So there can be many more factors, but these are the primary or major factors, okay, that will determine the cost of generation. So from these points, you will see that the cost of generation, or the determining the cost of generation, it is not a easy task. It is a very complex procedure. So I will say from these points, I will say that determining the cost of generation, it is a complex task. It is a complex task. Okay. Now the procedures for determining or calculating the procedures for determining or calculating the per unit cost of electrical energy production is known as economics of generation. So procedures, I will say procedures for determining the per unit cost of electricity generation is known as economics of generation. Okay. So what is economics of generation? Ultimately, the economics of generation is nothing but methods used for calculating the per unit cost of generation. Okay, what is economics of generation? Nothing but methods that are used for calculating the per unit cost of generation is called as the economics of generation. And what are the factors that will determine the cost of generation? They are: number one, availability of land, if the land is available at cheaper rates or not; cost of equipment. Okay, after that, the cost of equipment, cost of fuel, then depreciation cost of the equipment, and interest on capital investment. So these are the five major reasons. Okay. So why this economics of generation is important? Okay, so this economics of generation, suppose you are saying that okay, we will what happened in means in one state. I will not take the name. So one state, they started their 450 megawatt this power hose, and what they did, they started selling their power. Okay, right now we have power pools, means we have a one electricity market where different means utility or different power producers, they are selling their power. So though it was a hydroelectric based power project of 450 megawatt, and one of the state in India, it was trying to sell power in this electricity market. So what happened, the other companies, the other states, they offered power at much lower rates. Okay, means suppose like Punjab, so the state which was means trying to sell that 450 megawatt power, so they were trying to sell it at 2.6 rupees per unit. Okay, however Punjab, they offered it at 2.2 rupees. Okay, so obviously what happened, the consumers, they purchased power from Punjab. Okay, saying that okay, we are getting power at cheaper rates from Punjab, so we will purchase power from Punjab. And this 40 to 450 megawatt hydropower project that was started by one state, so they they suffered a huge loss because of that. Okay, so I am saying this economics of generation is important. It is important because a consumer will use electricity only if it is available at cheaper rates. Okay, I am saying it is important because a consumer will use electricity will use instead of use, we will say purchase. It is important because a consumer will purchase electricity from a utility at cheaper rates. So if there are two utilities or two or three companies which are supplying power, and one of the company it is supplying power at cheaper rates, so obviously a consumer will purchase power from that particular company which is supplying power at cheaper rates. Okay, so therefore it is the responsibility of the power engineers. Obviously you are going to be an engineer in future, so it is your responsibility to find ways or to find methods to reduce the production cost of the generation as low as possible. Okay, so I am saying that it is therefore it is the responsibility of power engineers it is the responsibility of power engineer to find ways to reduce the production cost as low as possible. Okay, so if a power engineer somehow he is able to reduce the production cost as low as possible, then only he will be then only that particular company will be able to means supply power at lower rates. Obviously अगर मेरे पास जो पावर मैं जनरेट कर रहा हूँ, ठीक है, अगर मैं उसे जनरेट कर पा रहा हूँ at lower rate, then only I will be able to sell it to consumers at lower rate. If I am generating power at higher rate, so how can I supply power to the consumers at lower rates? Okay, so it is the job of the power engineers to find the methods or ways to reduce the production cost as minimum as possible. So now let us means discuss some. I think the introduction to the second chapter it is means enough. Introductive part is enough. Means what is economics of generation? Why economics of generation is important? Okay, so what are the factors that affect the production cost? Okay, so next let us discuss some basic terms that are used in this economics of generation study. Okay, basic terms. So basic term used in economics of generation study. Basic term. The first basic term I'm saying it is interest. So what do you mean by interest? In simple words, I will say what I am doing. I am means borrowing money from some financial institution, and what this financial institution is doing, they are charging some interest on that money. Okay, and I am using that money, the loan which I am taking from the financial institution. I am using that money, and for using that money, I have to pay some interest to that financial institution. Okay, so in simple words, I will say interest is nothing but the cost of the use of money. The cost of use of money. Okay, so I already told you that for constructing power plants, huge investment is required. What huge investment? Like if you talk about the Bagliar hydroelectric project phase 1, near about 5,500 crore was the investment. Okay, so this huge investment is required. So what companies do? They borrow money from banks and other financial institutions. So from where this investment is coming from? Uh, Banks or other financial institutions Okay, so we are what is huge investment that is required for constructing a power plant. That investment comes from banks and other for financial institutions by borrowing money from them. So what happens? So though these banks are giving money, but they are charging some interest on that money. So what happens in return? I will say in return, comma, the company which is constructing the plant, has to pay some money as interest, has to pay some money as pay some money in the form of interest, okay, to the lending agency. Okay, so I am saying this is called interest. Okay, however, in the previous term I told you interest on capital investment. So this capital investment, it can come from money from banks, like I told you that huge investment, it is borrowed from banks and other financial institutions, and in return the company which is constructing the plant, they pay some money in the form of interest to the lending agency. So number one. Number two, I told you this interest, it is very important. Why? Because suppose that if a company which is constructing the plant, it is constructing the plant by utilizing its own resources, okay, means its own money, okay, but if that money which that it's the company which is using its own money, if its own money was deposited in a bank, what will happen? The bank would have given them some interest. Suppose you are depositing some money in the bank, you are getting interest. So if the company which is constructing the plant, what they do, if they will deposit their own money in the bank, they will get some interest from that money. Okay, so that interest also means plays a vital role. Okay, so I am saying uh, I am saying that if the company is utilizing its own resources, or funds, comma, the interest must still be allowed for since this amount could have gained interest if kept in a bank deposit. Okay, so one interest I am talking which the financial institution is charging if the company which is constructing the plant, if it borrows money from any financial institution. The second interest I am talking about, that if a company utilizes its own money, okay, so the interest on that money, if deposited in the bank, it has to be means taken into consideration while determining the cost of generation. Okay, so the second point is the second important point. Let me take the new page. The second important term is depreciation. So I will explain depreciation in simple words. So देखिए, आप सबके पास घर में गाड़ी है. ओके, so जब भी आप गाड़ी, if you will purchase a new vehicle, so what will happen, you will get a full insurance. Okay, an insurance, if you are purchasing a vehicle for 10 lakh, you are getting an insurance of 10 lakh for the first year only. Okay, for the first year, how much insurance are you getting? 10 lakh, which is nothing but the cost of vehicle. So during the second year, at the end of first year means at the beginning of the second year, so how much insurance will you get? If the cost was 10 lakh, no, you will get an interest of not interest, but insurance of 8.5 lakh. Why? Because the insurance company, as per the rule, means you have used the vehicle for 1 year. So in 1 year, while your vehicle was running, there was some wear and tear of the equipments or spare parts of the vehicle. Number one. Number two, suppose if the useful life of the vehicle was, suppose I am saying 15 years. If it's a petrol vehicle, the useful life of the vehicle was 15 years. So now you have means this vehicle has been in use for 1 year. So how many अब कितना यूजफुल लाइफ उसका बचा? सो इट हैज़ बीन इन यूज फॉर 1 year. For 1 year, so what is the useful life of the vehicle after 1 year? After 1 year, the useful life of the vehicle will be 14 years. Okay, so if the useful file life is now reduced, okay, and when it was fresh it was 15, after 1 year it is 14 years. So because we say that the useful life of the vehicle is now only 14 years, that's why the cost has been reduced, and we are saying no, the insurance will company will give you an insurance of only 8.5 lakh. During the at the end of the second year, means during the beginning of the third year, you will get an insurance of suppose 7 lakh. Why? Again, there is more wear and tear of the this equipments or spare parts of the vehicle, and the useful life of the vehicle is now only 13 years. Okay, similarly same is the case with the power plant. Suppose you are seeing the cost of the power plant. It was, you have constructed a power plant, so it was, suppose I'm saying it was 5,000 crores. Okay, and the useful life of the plant is 25 years. So at the end of the first year, means after the you have constructed the power plant, and means getting extracting electricity from it for 1 year. So you are saying because of the wear and tear of the equipments, now the cost has been reduced from 5,000 crore to 4,500 crore. एंड अब कितना यूजफुल लाइफ बचा? 1 साल यूज हो गया, तो अब यूजफुल लाइफ कितना हो गया? 24 years. So you are saying each year your cost of your this plant, it is decreasing. Okay, it is decreasing. So what you do, so you know that after 25 years you need, after 25 years you need another plant. Okay, after 25 years you need another plant, because after 25 years you have to, means you cannot use this plant because it has already completed its useful life. So after 25 years you need new plant. Okay, so what you have to do, each year you have to, means kept some amount, you have to take out some money from the profit. Suppose you are saying each year you are taking 500 crores as from the profit, and keeping it as a reserve. This 500 crore you are keeping it as a reserve, because you know that if 500 crore you will continuously use for 10 years, or suppose you are saying 500 is very high amount, I am saying 250 crores per year. So you know that after 20 years you will get, if you will save 250 years each year, then after 20 years you will have this 5,000 crore, so that you can construct a new plant. So this is called as depreciation. So depreciation is nothing, I will say it is that decrease in the value of the power plant equipment, decrease in the value of the power plant equipment and building due to constant use. Use is known as depreciation. As depreciation. Because you know that the equipment of a plant, it deteriorates. It deteriorates due to wear and tear. Okay, therefore there is gradual decrease in the cost of, there is gradual decrease in the cost of plant. Okay, so there is gradual, because of the deterioration of the equipment, there is, due to wear and tear, there is gradual decrease in the cost of the plant. Okay, so this reduction in the cost of the plant, this reduction in the cost of the plant every year is known as depreciation. I am saying this reduction in the cost of plant every year is known as depreciation. Those who are using vehicle, and if they are getting their vehicles insured every year, then they must be, means understanding this, it will be easier for them to understand this, what is depreciation. Okay, so I am saying this reduction in the cost of the plant every year is known as depreciation. So I am saying thus after the useful life of the plant, the plant is to be replaced by the new one. Thus after the useful life of plant, the plant comma the plant is to be replaced by new plant or new one. So what we do, a stable amount of money is to be set aside every year. Like here I told you 250 crore. I'm saying a stable amount of money is to be set aside every year, so that by the time the plant is taken off, the collected amount by way of depreciation equals the replacement cost of the plant. Okay, what I am saying a stable amount is to be set aside every year. हर साल करना है, because you cannot recover the replacement cost of the plant in 1 year. So what you do, every year you take some amount and keep it aside, okay, or keep it in a reserve. Okay, that's what I'm saying. A stable amount is to be set aside every year, so that by the time the plant is taken off, comma, the collected amount by way of depreciation equals the replacement cost of plant. So it is important that this depreciation cost, it must be included while determining the production cost of the electricity. Okay, so that is why I'm saying it is important to include the depreciation cost while means deciding the cost of production of electricity. So this now I will continue in the next lecture that how this in which categories these cost of generation of electricity is divided. Okay, so that I will discuss in the next lecture. And moreover, tomorrow I will take an interaction class. The links will be circulated in the morning or in the evening in the Google Classroom. I will take interaction class. So not tomorrow, but day after tomorrow. I have a class on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So on Thursday, I will take an interaction class. Okay. So tomorrow, I am uploading an lecture, but this lecture will consist of 2 videos. Okay, one video of 7 minutes or 30 seconds, and the second video of 33 minutes. So in case you have any confusion, so we will discuss that confusion in the interaction class on Thursday. Thank you very much.